Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Western Contingent. I am Tim from Las Vegas.
I'm Sam from the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back.
Yes, and we are here together just 3 days, right, removed from Dice Tower West.
Exactly. Three
Yeah.
days removed from possibly the best weekend this year so far.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, for me too, actually.
That was really good.
Yeah, we had a fantastic time. So we'll be talking a lot about that, a couple of maybe the games he did. But yeah, so Sam, just I mean, you can try to be objective. I know, we're friends and all this kind of stuff, but please try to be honest on your opinion on what you thought about like the Westgate. I mean, you were there when we were there in 19 and 20, but now that we have the whole thing, what were your overall opinions?
Well, I will say this. I think it was a great convention. First of all, I'll just put it that way. And there were a lot of fringe things that made the trip a very much a success for Jesse and I. But the convention proper, I think, was run very well. There were, a couple of things that were not big issues for me that I heard, grumblings about. But again, they were just small things. I think everything that was run from, the equipment that was used during panels, the amount of space that we had, the library was amazing. There were. Here's the thing, and this sounds strange, but here's the thing. My wife and I did not have to leave the hotel at all. Now, we did a couple of times for different things, for a bagel shop, Siegel's.
Oh, Bagel Mania? That's
Bagel Mania?
Yep.
Dude, the bomb diggity. Anyway, and Pinky, whatever donuts.
Pink Box.
Pink Box. That's what I'm talking about. Come to Vegas, they said.
Decadence at a level 10.
Eat poop. They had poop donuts.
Yep.
Poop
yes,
emoji donuts. And I had one. And it was the best tasting poop. I never had poop. I never eat poop. But, it was very, very good. But yes, absolute calorie decadence. But I think, we got a half dozen on like day one. And we still threw away some donuts at the end. They were all like partially eaten. We taste tested all of them. But it took us like one day, both of us, from the morning until the evening to finish that poop donut. It was such decadence as far as food is concerned. We just couldn't. It's one of those places where it's a novelty shop, and you're going to get it every once in a while. But if you eat like this every day, things will be problematic. Anyway, so what I was saying was we didn't ever have to leave the Westgate for anything. We did a couple of times for things that we had planned to do or wanted to do, but it was for very specific things. Like we went on Friday night, we went to a Gold Knights hockey game, and they were playing the Penguins, and that was a really fun experience. And the other two times that we left the hotel was to go get breakfast in the morning. The food in, they have that sports bar back there in the back.
Yes. Yep.
And it's really good food. And it's
really, you get
it's really not overpriced, and you get a good portion.
Yes, you do.
We all, Jess and I shared a Philly cheesesteak, and we were stuffed.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. That's what I mean by when we didn't have to leave the hotel. It's not that we didn't want to or didn't want to go see other things. It's just that there was no reason that we had to, which is a big thing. If you're not going to get a rental car or have to pay $20-30 for an Uber to go do something, And the monorail is right there. And
right there.
30 bucks for an Uber compared to for my wife and I both, $26 for a 24-hour pass on the monorail. That saves you a bucket load of money in and of itself. So,
Yeah.
the convention from top to bottom for me was an absolute success, in my opinion. I don't know any of the numbers. I don't know any of the other stuff. I don't know any of that. But from my point of view, had a great time.
Oh, fantastic. It's really great to hear that. I mean, yeah, it was a tremendous success for us too. And of course, right, there's going to be little hiccups here, little things there. But
Yeah.
the overall picture, yeah, we were extremely satisfied, extremely happy.
Mhm.
We got 3,600 people. We had over about 230, I think it was, at the door, um, uh,
Wow.
badges. And yeah, and again, we've been having meetings the past 2 days. As a matter of fact, we were just at Bagel Mania yesterday with Vinny, who does double exposure with our demo zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about things. We're already, taking notes, having meetings, doing audits and all that kind of stuff for next year. So we're definitely going to make it like better. But yeah, overall, we were really, really happy and really, really excited about the prospects for the future.
Yeah, that's cool. Absolutely fun. And Jesse was over the moon, and I'll not explain why because I know you might want to keep that on the DL, but we've already been talking about it. We've already been
No,
talking about it on our channel, so
yeah,
it's
we'll,
just
we'll we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, so we'll go over a couple of things about the con, for people who may not have had the chance to attend and others who were there. And
Mhm.
first of all, Sam, I don't know about you, but I was quite surprised. And again, I mean, we're not like Mr. Beast, of course, right? As far as views and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
I was really surprised how many people like watch us, and listen to
Mhm.
us. I had quite a few people
Yeah.
come up at our panel. People said the same things, but that's
Mhm.
that's so refreshing to hear.
It is.
That
Yeah.
yeah, that people enjoy it, like the topics we talk about, like the things we talk about.
Mhm.
So that was really really nice.
Yes.
To hear that from people. But yeah,
Absolutely.
so let's talk about the con a couple of things. So yeah, registration I thought went well. We were so surprised because we opened registration early on Tuesday. How
Mhm.
long the line was! Like there were so
On
many people.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, registering early. We do that to cut down the backlog from Wednesday. However, it's
Mhm.
really top loaded on Tuesday. We didn't realize that many people,
Yeah.
so we're making adjustments there. But we did have early gaming, a place for people to play, and that room was full back there on
Yeah, it
Tuesday
was.
night before the con. So that was
Mhm.
really good. And then right when you walk in from registration, you turn to your right, go up the hall, and you turn to the right, and that brings you into our first main open play area where we had the library, we had the hot games section, and then we had our main open play section. And
Mhm.
people really like that. Now, when we were at the Rio, if you remember, it was very segmented, right? We had
It
like the
was.
hot games room here,
Yeah.
the library here, played like in completely different rooms.
Yes.
But this was all together, and I got a lot of positive feedback because it gave you that togetherness and the energy, right? So
Yes.
people really
Yes.
enjoyed that.
Yep. Yeah. It just when you have all those people in the room, it raises the den of the room, so that it's a little harder for you to hear. But I think that's a good kind of trade off for having that sense of community. I really I didn't really dislike it, but it was just like one of those things. This feels strange because when you had all of the hot games in that one room in the Rio, it just felt very, like you said earlier, segmented. It felt very um, divided up into little smaller groups, and it was very hard to kind of get a more grand scope
Right.
view of how many people were actually at the convention. And when we had that open game area, right, and then you had the little cafeteria spot, and then the demos and the exhibitor hall, just that traversing between those two bigger areas, you got a bigger idea of of the scope of the convention and how many people were actually there and in attendance. And then in addition to that, you did have other breakout rooms where you could go for different events like the flea market or
Yep.
the math trade or And when stuff like that wasn't going on, there was just more gaming area. And it was very, you said that there were about 3,600 people there. It didn't feel that way, and it did feel that way at the same time. And that was because I think we were spread out enough
Right.
to where everybody had their room, their own, kind of elbow room, but you could still see all of those people that were milling about. So
Yeah.
I thought it was very well done in that way as far as planning out the different areas.
Yeah, and I think, like, again, for me personally, right? Because again, it's one of those kind of things where, Dave and I, when we're figuring this out, planning and all this kind of stuff, we just have to do what we think is best, right? And of course, what we think is best is what we hope and feel that people is best for the people, right? It's not just for us, it's for our community, for the convention. So we think we're doing the best things. And my thoughts on that, I just think it's really kind of good for your first sort of entrance into the convention is just that big open space. Like, you get to look to the right, you see the library, and it's massive, right? Then you look to the left and you see all those people playing. I just think that's a great way to walk into the convention, no matter when you arrive. You know what I mean? So we really like that. And then, like Sam was saying, you walk through that big area, and then what happened is you go into what is called the event center foyer. And I was so surprised because the weather, folks, was fantastic.
This guy's gonna keep plugging the weather, man. Come on,
fantastic, right, Sam? It was beautiful.
It was nice. It was
really nice. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because in the event center foyer, we had a food court. Again, it was concession food prices and stuff like that, like you get at a ballpark, whatever. But it was good. I mean, they had individual pizzas. I had a breakfast burrito one day. It was really good. But outside, we had a patio, and it was full. I took a couple of pictures one day, and they had tables you can take your food out and eat, and so that was really, really nice.
Yeah, that was nice. I think it is like ballpark pricing, so that is to say that it is simply overpriced. But that's just the way it is. You can't really complain about that, because it's like drinking from the hose to get a drink of water and then complaining that it tastes like rubber. Well, of course it is. Of course it is. But the food was good. I did have that breakfast burrito one time as well, and it was actually a really good breakfast burrito.
It was.
Another thing is that there was this little coffee shop in the lobby of the hotel, which basically was like a Starbucks, but it wasn't a Starbucks. I think it just did Starbucks products, because their breakfast sandwich was much better than Starbucks's breakfast sandwiches. We got them one morning. Well, my wife got one morning because normally she just eats a Starbucks breakfast sandwich on her own. And she got it, and she could only eat half of it because it had 2 patties of sausage on it, probably what amounted to 2 eggs, and cheese. And it was just this big breakfast sandwich, what you would expect to get from Starbucks for the prices they charge, but you don't if you go to a Starbucks. You get something about half the size, and it was really, really good. And their coffee, they did a great job as well. And the line was never really that long either. So I think the food in the hotel proper was done very well. And they also had other restaurants that you could go to. They had a Benihana that you could go to. They had an Italian place that was right across the hallway from the Benihana that you could go to. And then there was the steakhouse that I didn't go to because that was some high roller stuff right there.
Oh, yes,
that
it
was
is
expensive. So we didn't go to the steakhouse. We went to the Italian place right next door, and still spent a good chunk of change. But it was really good food. So
the dining options are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that we mentioned that we noticed and we talked to each other about when we were walking to and from the convention, one of the things that I usually really kind of dread is that walk through all of the slot machines and the gaming floor. because of the smoke. I just don't like smoke.
Mhm.
And surprisingly, they did a very good job, or at least a much better job than most other casinos that I've been in,
Yes.
of ventilating the smoke out of that room and replacing it with some kind of air freshener. I don't know what it is, but it generally, more often than not, it smelled pleasant in the gaming room as you walked through the casino.
Yeah.
There were times, of course, when there were more people in there on like Saturday where it was like, whoa, I need one of those N95s right about now, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, I was very pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
because,
So first of all, one of the things I hope people notice where you said in that sports book where the got the food was, their sports book is now smoke free.
oh,
So
really?
that's a
I
great thing.
didn't realize
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that is cool.
And the casino at the Westgate, I don't know how many other hotels you had to visit or anybody else did, but it's probably one of the smallest casinos for a
Yeah.
major
Somebody else
hotel
was talking about
that
that
there
too. Yeah.
is. It is a tiny, tiny, comparatively
Yeah.
casino. Like I don't know how they make money off the casino. It's just so small. But as Sam was saying, if you stayed on the
Yeah.
marble or the
Mhm.
thing, the pathway through the casino, yeah, the smoke didn't bother you at all. Once you got off the carpet and you tried to make shortcuts, then it bothered you because you were passing by people smoking and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
if you stayed on the walkway, yeah, it was very good and very pleasant. So yeah,
Yes.
they've done a really good job with filtration for the smoke and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then continue on. So we were talking about the foyer where you got the food and all that kind of stuff. After
Yep.
that, we had the event center. That's where we had our demo zone. We had the exhibitors. We had play to win. We had paint and take. We had some more open play space. And now, admittedly, like when we're planning stuff on paper, we forgot to imagine or realize that the banners, with the demo zone tables would go up. So they kind of obscured the exhibitors a little bit, which was unfortunate. We just kind of like an oversight. But
Yep.
we had a tremendous exhibitor area. A lot of the exhibitors did very, very well. We're very happy. Really good quality booths, good quality exhibitors.
Yeah.
Um, so we were really happy about that. Many of them already emailing us, about coming back next year,
Good.
giving us suggestions. Of course, we've taken those all, and Dave and we've already started replanning the layout, this and that. So that's all in the works. And the prototype area was very, very well received. They were all happy. A lot of people were doing the paint and take. Unfortunately, it was in the darkest corner of the entire event center.
Uh,
um, yeah, the lighting could have
of
been better.
all the things to have in the dark corner, that's
I know.
probably the most egregious.
I know exactly. But yeah, I mean, we were really, really happy. Again, little small things we're going to change to make better.
Mhm.
But and the thing on my part, why it was just really, really nice for me is no major drama. Right? You have little things here and there.
That's
People,
great.
whatever. That's just going to happen. But there was
Yep.
no major incidences, no major drama. However, I just have to let people know next year we're going to be a little bit. We're going to be not a little bit. We're going to be a lot more strict with the library. Too many people are abusing the privilege of checking out games. And
Mhm.
here, Sam, you know what happens, right? And I do too. A group
Yep.
of four people, like here's just one example. A group of four people come together, right? They're coming to Dice Tower West together to hang out and play games. I get it. You're friends. You don't have maybe a lot of time at home or you're from different parts of the country. Hey, let's meet at Dice Tower West. Let's hang out and play games. I get it. So what you
Yep.
all four do is you go down to the gaming hall at 8 a.m. and it's like, hey, Bob, you take out Ultimate Railroads. Mary, you take out Goa. Susan, you
Yep.
take out Millie Fiore, and John, you take out Smartphone. So each of them
Yep.
checks out a game and they pack it at their table and it just sits there while they play one game, then they play
For
the other.
8 hours.
And
Yeah.
so those four games get out of the library for like the whole entire day.
Yep.
And it's just not fair
Yep.
for other people, right?
Yep.
So we're going to be a lot more strict where you're going to get pinged, you're going to get emailed, and there's going to be sort of like you may lose your checkout privileges or whatever. But it's one of those kind of things. It's just inconsiderate to have a game. Come on, Sam, you know as well as I do, and people have to admit, how many games would you say realistically take over 4 or 5 hours to play? Very
Um,
few.
like I would imagine out of the 80,000 games that are on the BGG database, I would say less than 1%.
Yes, it's so small that, so there's no reason. We had like every day in the morning, we're emailing like 15 people who've had games out for 12, 15 hours because they take them up to their rooms, they do whatever. And it's just really really bad. So we have to stop that.
Yeah, I guess I would start as you, and again, my opinion, with $5 get you a cup of coffee. I would start with double checking to see if it's the same 15 people every single morning, and if there is basically crossover where there's a few people in there that are doing it the same thing, because really it's more a question of etiquette. And if you're not thinking about it, if you're not consciously thinking about it, then you're going to make those kinds of mistakes where you don't think about, this isn't like a library in your hometown where you get to check out a book and you can take it home and you can keep it for 2 weeks and you can keep it for longer than that, even if you and you're just going to have to pay a small fine when you bring it back. There's calling it a game library, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it brings with it that name.
I would agree.
Brings with it that feeling of, I can check this out and now this game is mine for as long as I want to have it. And there's no thought about, somebody else might want to play this game, so I need to go ahead and play it and get it back in there so that somebody else can play it. So I would say one of the things that we did on, Tom like hammers this on the cruise. I mean, hammers it, especially in those first cruisers meetings that he has at the beginning of the cruise. He hammers this, and he's very staunch about it. And we still have problems. It's one or two people. It's always the smallest, the smaller group that's having a problem with it, because most people get it. Most people understand it. But that's maybe something you have to do. But again, it's going to take time to kind of weed out that ideology of, I've checked this out, it's now mine until I turn it back in. I don't need to worry about what other people want or need or think.
Right.
But it's just one of those things. I will say this: 15 people, even if it's every day out of 3,600, that's a pretty small percentage.
No. Wait. Just to be clear, Sam, those are 15 people every morning who've had it for like 12, 10, 15 hours. No, there are dozens of people every day who have games for more than 4 hours. I'm just talking the extreme. Every morning we're having an email about 15 people who've had it overnight, 10, 12 hours. But during the day, there are dozens of people who've had the game out for 4, 5, 7 hours. And it's just way too much.
You know what would be kind of a funny thing to do?
What's that?
Put a little device in every game that, based on the recorded length of the game, it just starts buzzing.
There you go.
After a certain amount of time, and there is no way you can turn it off except to come bring it back to the library.
That is a great idea.
When people check it out, you tell them, all right, this is Blood Rage. It's going to start ringing in about 2.5 hours, or it's going to start ringing in about 3 hours, and you will not be able to turn it off unless you bring it back.
That you should patent that idea, Sam. That is a fantastic
I don't know about that, man. I'm just saying there's got to be a way. I mean, think about it. When you go and like at the sports bar, they give you one of those little devices that start ringing and vibrating. When that thing starts going off, I'm like, I got to get rid of this thing because this is driving me up a wall.
That's right. That's
So
right. Because you'd be bothering all the tables around you. People would be looking at you. You better be packing that thing up and getting it back to the library.
I don't care about all of them. It's driving me up a wall. So I want to get
Yeah,
that thing off my table.
absolutely.
So
That's a
food for
great
thought.
idea. That would be
Food for
good if
thought.
we could do that. So yeah, we did that, and then we had a lot of other things, so that's kind of the general layout of the place like that. And then you and I, we actually started off the panels. We had the first panel on Friday at 1:00, and that was fantastic. And the funny thing about it, Sam, is let me see, we each did 10 games. And I can't remember, but I'm going to say about 7 of the games you picked, I had really never even heard of.
That's because you need to like better games, man.
I guess so. I guess so.
No, well, I mean, there were a couple that I hadn't heard of based on the name, because you turned in your list to me so that I could make the PowerPoint. And while I was making the PowerPoint, I was like, man, I've never heard of this game ever. But then after I started looking it up, I was like, oh, I actually remember playing that game, because I have a very much of a visual memory. I don't have a photographic memory. I have a visual memory. And so when I see pictures of games, I'm like, oh yeah, I've played that one before. And a lot of the games that I didn't recognize by name, I knew by what the game looked like. But there were still a couple that I hadn't heard of before, like Trio and what was the other one? Well, there was one that had a whole bunch of different versions, and I needed your clarification on that one. But there were a couple that I had never heard of, but I'd heard of most of your games before. Yeah, with mine, I just thought, these would make great little backpack games, and so that's going to be coming up. I think can't remember what day it's going to be, but it's coming up pretty soon. I know Chris. I sent the PowerPoint over to Chris, and he was going to edit it and get it ready to go up on the channel.
Oh, they're gonna. Oh, that's right. That's right. Because Andrew was there taking the video. I remember. That's right. Because they're gonna put that up on the channel. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so we did that, and then after us, they had at 3:00 today. They had the game design panel, and then a Dice Tower show that night. And then the next day we had Jackie Fox, the designer of Rock Hard 1977, did her panel. And then Thinker Themer with the Brothers Murph did another panel at 3 p.m. And then on Saturday, there was the Dice Tower show. So Sam had mentioned something earlier. We had a very special VIP party. We sold to 150 people that people bought badges for. And it was fantastic. It went really, really well. The food, I can't believe how good the food was at the buffet.
It was very good. I think they ran out of appetizers, which had a couple people get a little spicy about, but
I'm sorry.
They ran out of the appetizers as soon as they were opening up the other food. So it was like, who cares? Just go get your food.
Right.
But yeah, it was very good food. Very good food. I had the I think Jesse and I both had the roast beef, or it wasn't called roast beef. It was something else, much more snooty name, but it was big. And it was really, really good. I had some peach cobbler. I can't eat like fresh peaches because of a thing from my childhood where my dad took me to a peach orchard, gave me a bushel and said, go pick your peaches. And a bunch of pits hit the bottom of that barrel, but not very many peaches did. So, so on the way home, I got super sick, and I haven't been able to eat fresh peaches ever since. But canned or cooked peaches, I really like, and peach cobbler is one of my favorite desserts, and they had it.
Wow.
And
nice.
now it wasn't my great aunt's peach cobbler.
Of course not. Right.
But it was some pretty good peach cobbler. So it was very good food. But go ahead.
Yeah, very, very good food. And then everybody got a bag who was there with games from Arcane Wonders. It was also from one game from Floodgate, Everything Epic. And also All Play gave everybody a bag and a game. You had to go pick it up at their booth on Saturday. So they did that. And then a friend of mine, there's a show in Vegas called Absinthe, which is an absolute one of the best shows in Vegas. It's got Cirque du Soleil style performers, variety acts. It's in the tent out in front of Caesar's Palace. And a friend of mine who's a juggler in the show, he came and he did like about 5 minutes of a little juggling act. And he was very impressive, wasn't he, Sam?
Dude was good, man. Dude was
Yeah.
super good. I can't believe how many things he had up in the air. I was like, dude, that is amazing. And Jesse is just going, jaw hitting the floor, because it's like I can't juggle 2 things, let alone 8.
Yes.
And that's what he was doing.
Excuse me. Yeah, it was amazing. And I told him afterwards, I was like, Noah, you do realize that for people like us, 3-ball tricks are amazing. You don't have to start with like 7.
Right. He set the bar super high. He was like, man,
he's like,
I ain't no just regular magician. I'm going to show y'all what's up.
Yeah, he had like 7, 8, 9 balls, whatever. Then the rings, he had like 7 rings. He's throwing up in there, rolling them on his back and catching them on his head and all. Oh, it was phenomenal. That was really good. And then we had some giveaways, some raffles. So what we did is this is just for the VIPs. We gave away some badges. We gave away a room and some badges. And we gave away a whole bunch of games we had in shrink wrap, brand new games, probably about 20 or 30 of them. And then what happened, we had a consolation prize where I brought some special guests and stuff, Sam and Jesse, and 3 or 4 guests, I think it was, also were part of the raffle, came with us too. But what we did, it was about 13, 14 of us total. We got an exclusive tour of the Elvis Suite because the Westgate used to be the Las Vegas Hilton, which used to be the International Hotel where Elvis had his residency. And also back in the day, that's where like Muhammad Ali, when he had his big fights, would fight there. I mean, the Las Vegas Hilton, the International, that was the hotel in Vegas back in the day. So we went up there. It's a private elevator. You got to get the penthouse elevator, get up to the top. And so Stephanie, who is my contact at the Westgate, who I, booked the contracts with and do all that kind of stuff, she gave us a little sort of a way to put things in perspective. And she even said that. She's like, right? She goes, okay, you guys can imagine the size of your home. She goes, the suite we're about to go into is 15,000 square feet. 15,000 square feet. Its own private pool. And it was, Sam, just incredible, right?
Yes. I mean, it's amazing that Tim pulled this off, because I started asking him, like, I don't know, about a week, 2 weeks ago, hey, is this possible? I heard that you and Tom took a tour of it way back when we were with the Westgate. Can we do that again? Because Jessie is a huge Elvis fan. She's been a huge Elvis fan. She even remembers when the announcement came out that the King is dead. She remembers the day. She remembers a conversation that she had with her mom on that day. So she's always been a huge Elvis fan. And so without asking, without telling her, I was trying to keep it on the down low. And he came back that day and he was like, well, they said they're not going to do it anymore, so we probably can't do it. And I was like, all right, well, because that day, Jesse woke up saying, I'm going to talk to somebody, and that somebody's going to send me to somebody else. Somebody else is going to show me to this person over here, and they're going to have a key. I'm going to get up there and see that. And I'm like, all right, settle down. Hold on now. And then you sent me that text, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to tell her, listen, I've been asking. It's something they don't do anymore. We won't be able to do it. And she was like, okay, whatever. And then we sit down at the VIP luncheon, and Tim comes up to me, and we're talking with people around the table, and Tim comes up and says, I need you here at 125, you and her, and pointing at Jesse. And I was like, okay. Just must be something that we're doing for the VIPs. Okay, cool. Maybe it's a picture or something like that. And so, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, Tim got something up his sleeve. He doing something. And so, sure enough, we get up there, and Jesse literally, Stephanie tells the group, we're going to go up to see the Elvis Suite, and Jesse literally squeals and starts jumping up and down. And everybody else is just kind of playing it off, being cool about it. And she's like, that's okay. I'll be excited for everybody.
There you go.
And yeah, it was just one of those things where, the only word that really comes to mind is opulence. I mean, it's just over the, I mean, you said opulence at its best, but it's like over the top opulence. And it's like, you walk into this hotel room. Let's just stop there. It's a hotel room that is 7 times larger than my home, with its own pool, 3 bathrooms, each of which have multiple showers and multiple jet bathtubs.
Right, but Sam, so here's I remember. Okay, I was going to clarify something. We asked this at the end.
Yes,
so let's be clear, because I know over in England they use the term bathroom. So when Sam said 3 bathrooms, that just means rooms with actual baths and showers and jacuzzis and whatever. But there were other smaller things with just toilets around.
Yes.
So
yes. That is correct. And I do also want to mention this room has been added onto and renovated since Elvis lived there. So when Elvis was there, it wasn't necessarily exactly the same, but it was the same place that Elvis lived in, So his DNA is under some of those layers of paint.
There you go. Absolutely.
I'm just saying. I mean, we didn't chip any of that paint off just to get some of it off. Maybe we did. I don't know. No. It's just one of those things. Jessie was absolutely floored, and she took pictures, video, and she was on cloud 9 for the rest of the day. You probably could have murdered a puppy right in front of her, and it would not have changed her demeanor at all. She was just definitely over the top.
Yeah, it's definitely a great thing to see, a piece of history. And I'm sure at 15,000 square feet that's not the largest room in Vegas, that there are others larger. And it's one of those kind of things. It's when people say the word undescribable, sometimes you're like, yeah, it's a little hyperbolic, but this is kind of undescribable. It's one of those, you just can't imagine, where inside the room, right? Like Sam said, gotta keep in perspective. We're talking about a hotel room. Inside the room, they had, remember the big foyer where we all got together to take the picture? It was like a double level little foyer, and it had a bottom thing with a well or something, and like the big picture windows looking over the city.
Yes.
Took the picture. This is still inside the room.
Yes.
It was just incredible.
The foyer was as big as my hotel room. That's how big.
Bigger. And how about that one bedroom? The shower. Remember, it had to be at least. It was like an 8x8, 10x10 shower with glass walls where you can come in on both sides,
and like 6 spigots that would like blast you from all different directions. Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was
a grand piano in the main room.
With a big working fireplace we sat in front of when Stephanie was talking. Yeah.
It's just you can't really grab the scope of what it is until you're physically standing inside that space, and it's unreal.
And not only that, remember she was telling us about like the priceless artwork in there, the paintings and the big vases and the furniture and all it's just so over the top. Like it is so over the top. Yeah,
absolutely is. It was unforgettable. And I was telling Tim earlier, in a text, I said that was a absolute immediate core memory for both of us. So that's that was just a cool thing that we were able to do.
So we got to do that with the VIP thing. And again, there were just so many other things. And as far as games go, I was very fortunate this time. I played the most games I've ever played at a convention, that I run, Dice Tower West.
Right.
I got to play basically 4 different games, and I played in the Hearts tournament on a Saturday night, which I did not win, which I had I fully expected to win. I always go into those expecting to win, right? I don't expect to just do I expect to win, and I didn't. But so I got to play about 4. How many games total do you think you got to play?
Oh, I was not keeping track, but I probably played I would say probably at least 5 or 6 games every day. Now, some of them were smaller than others, but I would imagine I played that many games per day. So I probably walked away with about 20 to 25 games played.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
again, we're just going to talk about maybe one or two
Yeah.
games that we played. And so I'll just list real quick the four I did play. I played
Okay.
Lone Wolves, The Gang, Bomb Busters, and Compile. So
Okay.
those are the four I played. And the one that stood out for me was Lone Wolves, because I had played the other three, The Gang, Bomb Busters, and Compile before. But
Mhm.
Lone Wolves was the first time we played it. I bought it at Gen Con last year because I knew it was on sort of the thumbs up kind of list, and I wanted to make sure we
Yeah.
had it for the library.
Yeah.
And I played with Chuck, who I met on the Dice Tower cruise many years ago.
Mhm.
2-player trick taking game, and it
Hmm.
was very intriguing. I really we played like one game because I'm one of those kind of people. He asked me, and I really appreciate this, and I think we talked about this, Sam, when we talked about learning and teaching games. He
Yeah.
asked me, which I said we should do more. He goes, "How do you want to learn?" He goes, "Do you want to be taught everything, or do you want just
Cool.
let's play and learn as we go?" And I was like, "That one right there. let's just play and learn as we go, because that's how I am."
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that. And as I said, I think all of us should do that more. Let's ask the
Yep.
people how they want to learn. So anyway, we
Mhm.
did the first game like that, and of course, you don't know everything because you're just learning as you go. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Now I get it. That's interesting. Oh, blah blah blah. So he's like, hey, you want to play again? Great, let's play again. I had it, and wow, what a good game! Lone Wolves, 2-player trick taking game. Such unique gameplay, such unique mechanics and scoring, and I really, really, really enjoyed that game.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't really um I played a lot of well, I played a lot of new games. I also played almost kind of like a 50-50 games that were new to me and games that were not new to me as far as overall time played at the very least, because a lot of the newer games that I played were really shorter games and I played them multiple times. But the first one that I want to talk about, it is a game that is in my top 5 games of all time. And this was the most time that I spent on one game at the convention, and that was Memoir 44. Memoir
With
40. We played
Patrick?
Memoir. Huh?
With Patrick?
Yep, with
Yeah,
Patrick.
there you go.
We made that's our tradition. We
Yeah,
play at least one game together of Memoir 44 every single year at Dice Tower West,
yeah.
because that's how we actually met. We met playing Memoir 44 at MeepleCon, the second year of MeepleCon, and the story goes, we were just kind of milling about right before the library was about to close, and we kind of looked at each other, and he knew that I liked Memoir 44, and he says, "Hey, you want to play Memoir 44?" And I was like, "I don't know if we got enough time. It's about to close." And he said, "We can do it." And so we checked it out of the library a half hour before the library was going to close. We set up a scenario, played the scenario, finished the scenario, and turned it back in with 3 minutes to spare.
Wow. Very good.
This year, it was not that short. Um, so what we did was Memoir 44 has the ability to play what's called the Overlord way of playing it. It's an Overlord kind of scenario, but it's a little bit more than that. And originally, basically, all you did was you had to have two of the core boxes of the games, and you would put two of the base box game boards together, and it would make a longer board, 6 areas wide instead of just 3, and you would basically play 3-on-3, or you could play 8-on-8, where you had 3 field commanders and a general on both sides of the table, and the general would hand out orders to the different field commanders, and that's how you played it. Well, we played a modified version of Overlord in using breakthrough maps, and breakthrough maps are maps that are longer and not as wide. So we played the D-Day breakthrough scenario, which basically meant that we were using 4 breakthrough maps I was on the Ally side. I was doing Omaha Beach. My buddy Danny was doing Gold Beach with the British. Christian, a new guy that was that had this is like the second time he ever played Memoir 44. He was taking care of Utah Beach, and then my buddy Tom was playing the airborne, the paratroops that kind of went behind the enemy lines the night before. And Patrick was across from me on Omaha Beach, and then I don't remember the other names of the other gentlemen because I frankly wasn't focused on them. I was focused on our side of the board. Anyway, this took 5.5 hours.
Wow.
But it was so freaking fun. It was so fun. One of the highlights of the con was the fact that I got to play my top 1 and my top 2 game, both. And both of them were absolutely great times. But this one was another core memory. I really enjoyed this play of Memoir 44. And one of the reasons why I liked it so much is because it's just a game. It's not even, I can't even really call it a simulation of history. Although they do try to make it as close to a simulation because they give you a lot of the historical background and all that kind of stuff. But, Omaha Beach was called Bloody Omaha for a reason. That's where we lost a lot of our troops. And my goodness, was it hard for me to get my troops off the beach. And it just made me kind of, after the game was over, it just kind of made me sit there and realize, man, what those men and boys went through on that day. And that's one of the coolest things about that game for me, is that it makes me reflect and it makes me realize what people have paid for the freedoms that we have. But before, that's kind of like a deeper layer. On the surface, we had such a great time just talking trash and and just all that kind of stuff. It was such a fun time, and it was fun to teach the game Memoir 44 to 3 basically new players, because Danny had never played before and he was doing the British. Tom, I had taught him how to play Memoir 44 the year before at Dice Tower West, and he wanted to play it again this year. And then there was a father-son combo there. The father had never played Memoir 44 before, and Christian had only played it once. And so it was a really fun time playing it at that scope and have those 4 people walk away from the table saying they had such a great time.
Nice.
It was such a good thing. I loved it. And it'll, again, just another core memory.
Oh, fantastic. That's really, really good. It's always good to have those kind of things. The second one I want to talk about, I think this was number 3. I can't remember exact number on my backpack games. And that's The Gang. Now, what was really special about playing this game, was it number 2? It was in the top 3, I'm pretty sure. The Gang.
Yeah.
The Gang. Yeah, so The Gang is basically, I just describe it in one word. It is a fully cooperative Texas Hold'em. Okay.
Yep.
That's it. That's what the game is. Are you going to do the thing?
Oh, dadgummit.
Yes.
I'm not used to it yet. All right. Start over. About your underdog. Just come into it where you're going to announce.
So the other game I wanted to talk about was a game that I believe was in the top 3 of my top 10 backpack games, and that is The Gang. Now, The Gang, for people who don't know that, is fully cooperative Texas Hold'em. That's it. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. However, what made this special is I got to play it twice. The first time I played it was with 2 very dear friends of mine, locals here in Vegas, who I've known for quite a few years now, Carmen and Chad. And then also Stefan, from Asmodee, Stefan Brunel.
Yeah.
He's a really good friend of mine. I see him. We spend a lot of time together at the gathering. I'll see him next month, and I see him at all cons all over the place. But he joined us, and I just love The Gang. That's why it's one of my highly rated backpack games. It's, I haven't done like a top 100 of all time games list, but it'll be in there too. And so playing with people who you really enjoy being with, really good friends, the cooperativeness, just the tension, the whole I just love the gang. I
Yeah.
love the gang. It's such a good game. And then the second time I played again was with a very lovely couple who I met on the Dice Tower cruise, and I taught them the game, Brian and Chris. And this was their first Dice Tower West. They came after I met them on the cruise, and again, Stefan joined us, and we had a fantastic time. Both times we beat the game on kind of basic, not basic mode, whatever level mode you with the cards. Then we went to advanced mode. It wasn't the pro thief mode or whatever, but we went to the event where the good and the bad sort of things stack on each other and they continue through the whole round. And we were able to beat that again. And it just, again, the combination of being with people who you really like, you really enjoy being with, and just the gameplay. Those were really two great highlights that I was able to get at the con by playing the game. And I highly recommend, if any, and you don't have to know poker. It's a little bit better for everybody in the game, I would say, if you do have a little bit of idea of how to play poker. But you don't really have to know, but it would be a better game. I highly recommend, if you like poker, Texas Hold'em, and if you know the basics, the rank of the cards, give it a try. The Gang is a fantastic, fun, very enjoyable game to play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's one of those games where you know, having a familiarity with the hierarchy of hands and poker definitely helps the game go along, as you said. But it is absolutely not necessary. They have player aids there that kind of lay out the hierarchy for you, and even if you have to kind of keep looking at that player aid, you can still do well at playing the game. But as you said, having a familiarity with it is always better, but it's definitely not necessary.
Yes, absolutely.
The other game that I'm going to talk about is actually one that my wife and I wanted to try, and it was in the hot games area. And as soon as we played it, I don't even think we had finished yet. I ordered it online from a place that is basically a pre-order, because I believe it's basically just sold out. Well, I think it might be a Kickstarter that is just beginning to fulfill, or has just completed fulfillment, and it's not actually in retail stores yet. But this one is called Critter Kitchen. Kitchen was such a fun time. Now, if you're looking at it, it might look very familiar to you, even if you've never played it before. And that's because it's by the same publisher and it's by the same artist as Flamecraft. So it has a very similar art style. It has a very similar production value as Flamecraft does. And it even has a very similar layout, as far as, it has that oblong kind of playmat or player board that you're doing things in order, just like Flamecraft has that oblong village where you're placing the different spots at. And it's also food themed. Critter Kitchen, you're basically part of a restaurant, and you're preparing meals for people and building up your reputation, and then you have to prepare a final like five course meal for a critic at the end of the game, and that's where you're also going to score a lot of points. But it's a really neat resource management is really what it kind of is. Has a feel of like a set collection, because you are trying to collect different sets of ingredients or parts of your meal so that you can put that meal on. So it has a little bit of that, but really the different ingredients and the different dishes that you're putting out are basically just different kinds of resources that you're trying to go out and purchase at these different spots in town. And it's really, really neat and fun. I went out and tried to order the deluxe version, because the deluxe version is really kind of nice.
It's quite deluxe.
Yeah, it's quite deluxe. So we went ahead and paid a few extra bucks for it, because it's the game that, like Flamecraft, it's got that kind of intro appeal. It definitely has huge table appeal, But it's one of those kinds of games that it's slightly more complicated, I think, than Flamecraft is. But not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. If you can handle Flamecraft, then you will be able to grab hold of Critter Kitchen pretty well. But it might have a little bit of a high learning curve for new players. But I don't think it's too far out of reach. You just have to really kind of, as we've talked about before, you really have to kind of gauge that on your own based on your personal experience with these new players. But it's a really fun game. My wife and I enjoyed it a lot. We went ahead and purchased it right off the bat.
There was a lot of good feedback about Critter Kitchen. A lot of people said that was one of their favorite games they played in the hot game section.
Cool. Very good.
Yeah, quite a few people. And again, I just want to make a little note for people who may be just listening to us and may have not had a chance to go to Dice Tower West, who aren't familiar exactly with what a hot game means. Because I remember, so Tom, Dave, and I, we do a first timers panel, and somebody had asked that question. Because again, sometimes, right, we as gamers, we just take these things for granted, right? Like we think everybody knows what this stuff means, and some people don't. So what we do at the hot game section is, Tom kind of gives me a list and I add games in. But what it is, it are games that are currently within the community. I guess this is what Tom does for a living, right? This is his job. So he has great insight for what are the hottest games at the moment, like the very, very, very hottest games. Yeah. So the purpose of hot games is to take, say, game A, whatever it is, really, really hot. Everybody wants it, right? Put it on a table and it stays at that table. So as I talked about earlier, we don't have any possibility of people checking it out for 10, 12 hours or whatever. None of that stuff. So basically, it gets the most possible plays of that game, because when game A is permanently set at a table, it's intended for people or whatever, sit down, play the game, they're done, immediately another group comes in, plays. They play, they're done, another group comes and plays. So that's the purpose of hot games, is so that way it can get the most possible play, because there's never like time for it to be checked out, to be returned or whatever. It's just there the whole time. We had on my list, I think I had 31 hot games. Some had duplicate copies, and we had other games there as well. So we tried to get as many, and I tried to get as many of them I could. I think I had at least half, if not 2/3 of the games in the hot games also in the library available to check out as well.
Sweet.
So so that is the purpose of a hot game, is to try to make sure it gets maximum play at the event and as many people can sit down and play it. And we did, I think, have 2 copies of Critter Kitchen out. We may have. So
yeah, you did. You had 2 tables that were right next to each other that both had Critter Kitchen on it. We were taught by Nick, and I believe his wife name was Sally. They're from the UK, and me and Jess played with Nick, and I believe I'm horrible with names, so if I miss his wife's name, Nick was definitely the guy who taught the game. But we had a great time. We had a great time playing the game with them. It was kind of that. It's one of those things where you sit down at a table with people that you've never met before, or you've only, at the very least, only met a couple of times before, and you automatically feel like friends. And it was just a great experience. It was a great experience.
And again, we talked about it. We have to go and all kind of stuff. We talked about this before, Sam. Games and gaming are such a great way to find out about people, right? It tells you kind of a lot about people, but also a great way to just bring people together. It's just such, to have total strangers be able to sit down and have this core thing sitting in the middle of the table that you both love, whether you know how to play it, what to do, or whatever. You both know you're going to love the experience of learning and playing and doing whatever. And it's just, gaming is just fantastic.
It is.
Yeah. But anyway, so listen, thank you all for attending Dice Tower West. Thank you, Sam and Jess, for coming. As always, you've always been a great supporter ever since, MeepleCon 2, right? You have been a fantastic, steadfast friend of the con, part of the con. A con is not, it's Dice. There are certain people, and I don't mean to say this because he's sitting right in front of me, but there are certain things or people or whatever that it would have sort of not feel like an actual Dice Tower West that it is now without, people. And Sam is one of those, right? Like, we have to have you there. I always fly you and get you there, bring you there. So we love having you at the con. People do too. But yeah, we're very happy with everything. And next year, folks, we promise it's just going to get bigger and better and be more fantastic. So please continue to come. And if you haven't come, try to make the trip out there.
There's always a place to start, and that's 2026.
There you go, 2026. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Western Contingent. Oh, and by that, speaking of that, Sam, I had quite a few people who said they liked that name too. They said, "Hey, you should stick with it." There you go.
Write it in stone.
There it is. And we are the Western Contingent.
There you go.
Until next time, folks. Again, thank you for joining us. I am Tim from Las Vegas.
I'm Sam from the Pacific Northwest. See you on the flip side, folks.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.